Hi all, this is Skate, and this is the T54 Ltwt. And if I've scheduled my videos correctly, this should be appearing about a week after I uploaded that 7-kill 1 vs 4 T54 Ltwt game, which I kind of felt warranted its own video. Now, I don't think the replays in here are as interesting as that one game, hence the fact I put it in its own video, but I think they highlight the tank very nicely, and I think they show the pros and the cons of the tank very nicely. They show what the tank is capable of, and they show what the tank suffers with, which I think is quite important when you are talking about the pros and cons of a tank. Now, as I mentioned in that previous video, I spent a lot of time. For some reason, when I went to go pick a tank, I just picked something big and slow and lumbering with its armor, which is great fun to bounce things, and it's great fun to make massive dents like in the Jaeger route. However, it's also exceptionally good fun just to annoy the hell out of people with a good rate of fire and stonkingly good mobility. It's just fun. And that's what I wanted, is to play something which was just fun. And there are so many tanks in the game, you forget about some often. And often you don't play tanks you've played in a long time. And the T54 Ltwt for me was that. But it's a very good tank. Here's what I recommend. If you love Blitz, but you're feeling a little bit bored, and you see all these new tanks coming in the store, don't. Get flicking through that tech tree, or even the probably abundance of premium tanks most people who watch this video will already have, and pick something you haven't played in an awfully long time. Even if you have bad memories of the tank, or you don't remember it being that good. As we progress as players, as we improve as players the more we play, you tend to find when you go back to a tank, you feel it's a damn sight better than when you originally got it. Quite simply because you're a better player. Seriously, try it. Just drop a comment below. I'm really intrigued as to who's going to try this and what sort of results you get. But go find a tech tree tank which you haven't played since you first started the game, or a very long time ago, and just take it out and have a bit of fun in it. And you'll be surprised. And let me know in the comments below what you pick, and I'll see if I can follow suit with the video when I get back. But yeah, let's talk lightweight. Now, I think this is a good tank. I really enjoy playing this an awful lot, and I'm probably going to keep playing this a lot more in the future now. I don't think it's by any stretch of the imagination overpowered. I don't think by any stretch of the imagination it's very, very strong in comparison to its counterparts. Statistically, on paper, it's not. When you compare its average stats in terms of average win rate, average damage, everything like that, it kind of falls in the average category. When you look at its stats in comparison to its lightweight counterparts, it kind of falls into the average category. Yet there's something very special about this light tank. It's got a wicked armor profile for a light tank. If you're not very good in light tanks and you want to practice in light tanks, but you like medium tanks, and you're looking for some form of halfway house, the T54 Ltwt is for you. It is the optimal stepping stone between a medium tank and light tank gameplay. In perspective, this thing has 160mm of frontal turret armor. Compare that to every other tier 8 light tank and you're looking 40mm frontal, 25, 25, 25, 26. This thing is well above average in terms of armor. Even the same with the front of the hull. You're looking 80mm in comparison to 40, 25, 25, 25, and 26. And then even the side. I mean, even the back of the turret on this thing. The side has 120, by the way, and the back of the turret on this has 60mm of armor, which again is way more than most most light tanks have on the front of their turret. That allows you, as a light tank, to bounce shots quite reliably when you hold down. And that's quite funny. And that's why I also think it's like a perfect halfway house between a medium and a light tank. You can go spotting for your team, you can use camo for your team, and yet you can bounce shots for your team, which is something not a lot of... Okay, that's not a good example. But it's something not a lot... Actually, no other light tank can say they can do for the team. And when you focus that, and you focus that specifically on the T54 Ltwt, that's what sets this thing apart, and that's what makes it that little bit special. No other tier 8 light tank can brag that sort of armor. Hell, some medium tanks can't brag that sort of armor. Now, it has only got 5 degrees of gun depression, which makes it a little bit awkward sometimes, just like the T54 and just like the T62A. But that doesn't mean it's not workable, and it doesn't mean you can't go hull down very, very well in this thing. So when I try to focus that side of it, it works. And you get some really handy bounces on a light tank. Now, the hull, yeah, it's got more than the average light tank, but it's still shockingly weak, and it's still very, very easy to penetrate. So if you have to go hull down, do it. However, if you can use the mobility on this thing more than you can try and rely on armor, you will do much, much better. Because the only things you can go hull down against, realistically, is other medium tanks and light tanks and potentially lightly armoured tank destroyers. Not because they're the only things that can penetrate you. In fact, half those things can penetrate. In terms of tank destroyer, most things can penetrate. The issue with playing the hull down game and not using the mobility on this thing is your penetration. All light tanks have lesser penetration than their counterparts. This thing has average penetration. It's poor, I think, personally. I mean, 175mm. It means you're not going through the front of a lot of tanks reliably, especially heavies. So if you're trying to play hull down against things like that, you're doing it wrong. The penetration is absolutely fine when you're using the mobility to get around the side of tanks, and it's absolutely fine when you work in the rear of a tank using your mobility, using your camo. I mean, we've just got around there, spotted those 2 targets, and we're completely unspotted until we bait the AMX by here. The other thing is your premium ammunition is the worst of any of the light tanks. You only have, and I do mean only, 235mm of penetration with your APCR. That's bad. I mean, 248 on the AMX, 250 on the M41 90mm. Our used gun absolutely shines, 250 again, and then the T49 with the 90mm has 250. So you have 15mm less on average. It's quite a bit. But yet, the balance of that is you can't do this, what I'm about to do here, in any of those other tanks. Pop the turret and not get penned. You'll get penned in all the others, virtually guaranteed. You won't in that one, by popping just the turret over. So because of the gun, because of penetration, which is the case for all light tanks really, mobility is key, mobility is golden. We've just taken the track of that tortoise to avoid a shot off him. Would have been nice to penetrate at the same time, but again, with the penetration value, you're not going to go through the track of a tortoise with this thing, and you're not going to go through it and penetrate and do damage at the same time. Not at that angle, anyway. So yeah, using the armor on a T54 lightweight, you can do, and it does it well. But it's also very, very nice to use it properly like a light tank. Go heading off like an absolute headless lunatic early on into the battle, spotting what you can, and then making a flank, then making a U-turn, running back, then baiting people, then appear at different points in the map, resetting your camo, getting shots off, popping up, surprising people. That's what light tanking is all about. It's not even about the damage you can do half the time. It's about being a distraction, spotting things for your team, being useful. As an example, my AMX 1390, I think, is my highest win rate light tank at tier 8. Yeah, it has my lowest average damage out of my light tanks. And it's because I think, personally, it's so good at being a light tank. It's so good at being a distraction. Its camo is fantastic. It's good at popping up, reappearing somewhere else, unloading a clip, killing potentially half or less hit point tanks, and then running away again. It's really good at that. And that's what a lot of people, I think, miss about light tanks. Is medium tanks can do this, but just not as well. This is where light tanks start to set themselves apart from the medium tanks. And this is why they have the slightly worse guns. It's harder to do it in Blitz sometimes, I will say that. But it is certainly doable. And again, this is what makes the T54 lightweight shine. If you need to be a medium tank and take a couple of shots, or do at least brawl a little bit with medium tanks, you can do it. And you can't argue that point with other light tanks at all. Yeah, you can play DPM wars with other medium tanks sometimes. Especially if you're in an RU, because they will DPM a lot of things, surprisingly. But they don't have the hit points, and they can very easily be dealt with HE. So it's trying to find a balance between them. And that's what the T54 Lightweight, in my opinion, is exceptional at. But there's a downside, in my opinion. I personally think quite a chunk of the player base don't know this and just treat them as medium tanks. Therefore, if you are not up on the front line with your medium tanks, you will get people raging at you sometimes, which personally I think is a little bit ridiculous. When I'm light tanking, what I will always try and do personally is get up early, get some spots in, try and be of use like I am here, and then once I'm unable to do that, at that point in time, it's time to relocate, it's time to be a distraction, it's time to reset your camo and then appear somewhere else. This game, heads up, it's going to be a loss. But I think it's a really nice example of resetting camo against multiple targets and using that to your advantage to magically surprise them and either do more damage to them or finish them off. The other thing then is we don't really do a huge amount of damage in this battle. Also, we have very little hit points left, which pretty much, in my opinion, translates to if I can be a distraction or I can deal with that KV4 as an example while he is alone, because big slow heavy tanks are really easy prey for this tank, then surely I'm better trying to be very careful and being alive with my very little hit points, pretty much making me a one-shot to a lot of the enemy team, than dead. Because they are the options at this point. I can either stick on the front line because somebody's saying, oh look, you're a light tank and you're running away, or I could just ignore nonsense like that, which hasn't happened in this game, thankfully. But yeah, you can ignore comments like that. You can pick on prey like this, or you can die. It's as easy as that. I mean, after I've dealt with this, because we're now hiding behind a building while keeping in permatract, I can deal with this. This is helping the team still. And then I can go onto the flank, and I can do something, which again is better than just being dead. Made me laugh, actually. They had a KV4 sniping on their team, and we've got an ST1 sniping on our team. Stuff like that does make me laugh, and there's nothing against any player directly. It's just, if you're in a heavy tank, at least do a heavy tank thing. It's also at this point where I noticed the team moaning at the ISU. Now, I have no idea what was going on at that point in time, but when I looked up, I noticed the ISU is at the spawn, basically, and has full hit points. Ideally, we could do with him leaving that spawn and giving us a hand over here, especially if he hasn't got any targets to shoot at. However, I'm not going to rage and moan about it. I mean, the assumption I'm going to make is he's not going to, and if he does, it'll make things better. But there. I've just lit up that tank. They have no idea I'm here, which I'm hoping a HE into him doesn't finish him off. But look, that's the beauty of the light tank. We're resetting our camo again. We will outspot him, absolutely no problems at all. I'm trying to just sneakily poke up and get a shot without overexposing myself. The other thing I'm worried about, by the way, is the enemy T49. I have no idea where he is. And now we do know where he is, because he just popped up on the map. I feel a little bit more confident to pop out, take another shot, and then get back into cover, and wait till my camo resets. Obviously my gun is loaded, but that waffle is waiting for me to pop back up. So my idea is, well look, he's looking over there, expecting me over there. But it's allowed us to at least do something, and that's the beauty of resetting camo. Even the enemy VK, he could be focused on my green right now, which is a very low hit point target. Instead, look, he's taking blind fire where he thinks I was last spotted, because they're conscious there's a light tank over here. At this point in time, I'm being useful, I'm distracting. They're worried about me popping back up here. And now it's 2 versus, well, 3. The IS is gone, by the way. The T49, I believe, dealt with that. And it's looking a bit sketchy. So, I'm going to try and, look, angle myself so just my turret is popping out. It's really hard to do with the gun depression, though, but you can see I'm trying to. without exposing my hull. And that's, we've got the opportunity. Bad shot in all fairness. But I'm going to reload before him, which means we can finish him off. And it's just 3 versus the T49. T49, if you look, last was on full hit points. And every single one of us is a one-shot to that guy. And there's only 45 seconds left on the clock. In other words, kind of screwed at this point, because if I was the T49, I would YOLO in, take one out, light everyone else up, and then try and disappear again. What he's doing though, I believe he is hiding. He is a good player, I believe, actually. He's played very well in this battle. And he certainly knows how to play his light tanks. I mean, he could be hiding, or he could be on a very, very long flank. But with his rate of fire, and how much time we have left on the clock, I think he is hiding. Which means pretty much there's nothing else that's going to happen in this battle. I'm trying to light up, I'm trying to spot, I'm trying to find him, but it's just not going to happen. And that is going to be the end of the battle. So it is a loss. No, it's not. It's a draw. So although it's a draw, it's still a very, very nice example, I think, of how even when you're potentially down and out because you're a one-shot, you can still flank, you can still spot, you can still be a distraction, and do all those wonderful things only a light tank can do. So although that one was a draw, we still got a mastery in that one. 3,091 damage, 5 kills, and 1,341 base XP. We also spotted 3 targets and have 1,400 plus assistance damage. All in all, T54 Ltwt, I don't think it's the greatest light tank. I also don't think it's overpowered, really. But I do think it's a very good tank, and I also think it's very fun to play. But that's it for this video. I hope you have enjoyed it. Thank you all for watching, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye bye.